Hello, this is AstroKrys from CodaQueenAstrology, and today's video is going to be on the full moon in Pisces. This full moon is quite dreamy and magical. We're going to be able to release some blockages and transform our lives. So I can't wait to get into this full moon. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, comment below. Let me know what this full moon is doing in your chart. You can also head on to my website to grab your free natal chart and follow along. We're going to specifically look at the degrees that the full moon is activating, and you can then find out if you are being more called to do some work this time around. Everyone has their time. So again, description below will have the link to that free birth chart calculator, and let's get started. Every full moon, we're activating the feminine and the masculine. The feminine coming from the moon and the masculine energy coming from the sun. And they form an exact opposition, which is exactly 180 degrees away from each other. This is a polarity activation. We're having the moon in the sign of Pisces, and exact opposite to that sign is Virgo. Now, every polarity axis does have similarities. They're typically like higher octaves of each other because they represent similar things but in different ways. For example, the Virgo house is the house of work and service and health, while the Pisces house is the house of spirit, it's the house of mental health, and it's the house of spiritual health as well. So they're both houses that deal with service to our everyday routines, and also in our work that we do, and also service to our spiritual self, our soul, and also how our soul contributes to humanity as a whole. So this axis is quite healing because of the zodiac sign constellations being activated. Now, one thing I found interesting is that the sun is at 28 degrees in Virgo and the moon is at 28 degrees in Pisces. This full moon is happening at the last degrees of Pisces and Virgo. Well, technically the 28th degree is not the last degree, but one more degree, which would be the 29th. And this is 28 with around 11 seconds. So it's past the 28 mark. We're closer to the 29th. It's typically the last degree of the wheel. And then from there, when we move a little forward, the sun goes into 0 degrees. So this is activating the end for new beginnings. That's the signature that we're having with this full moon. Also, this time around, this moon is quite different because we have the energy of Pluto assisting. Now, the sun is actually forming a trine with Pluto, while the moon is actually forming a sextile. Thus, Pluto is here kind of mediating things. So we already know the energy of Pluto. It's to transform. It's to be reborn after releasing blockages, fears, or anything that's kind of traumatizing or holding us back from expressing our true divine self. So I like the fact that Pluto is actually supporting, because Pluto's energy can also be quite dark, but it's more supportive when it's in a trine aspect or a sextile aspect, which is what's happening with this full moon in Pisces. Now, I am going to be hosting a karmic patterns class. I might make it a course, but so far I have a class, and we're going to be talking about Pluto and the karmic signatures that you can see in natal charts. Now, I'm a huge advocate of using astrology as a blueprint, in addition to combining it with other modalities so we can heal and transform. Because remember, the astrology chart is our signature. That's our karmic contract that we came in this world, and we're going to manifest either the higher, more light energies of that contract, or we can go into the shadow. And that's when we need to release some of the karmic obligations that we have to work on so we can reach Dharma. So I'm very excited to teach that class. I'm also going to be posting another video about this with an interview that I had. And yes, just a lot of cool stuff. The description will be in the link below so you can register. And this is going to be recorded. So if you're catching this video later, you can always purchase it later as a recording. Valuable information, lots of good things. It's going to be awesome. Hope to see you there. So, just bringing it back to the full moon in Pisces, when we're looking at Pluto, he's a big player here. Now, the sun is forming a separating trine because the sun actually trined Pluto a few days before the full moon, but either way, it's still a big player. Now, the rulers of the full moon are Mercury and Jupiter. And Jupiter is in the sign of Aquarius currently, along with Saturn in Aquarius, and Mercury is in the sign of Libra. Now, let's talk about Mercury. What's happening with Mercury? Mercury is under the rulership of Venus right now, and Venus is in the sign of Scorpio. And Mars, which rules Scorpio, is in the sign of Libra. Thus, these planets are in each other's kingdom. This is called mutual reception, but they are debilitated. However, because they're in each other's kingdom, they have a connection to each other and they work quite well. We are going to have some hiccups because they're debilitated. Let me give you an example. Mars in the sign of Libra can be a little bit more passive aggressive, but Mars's nature is to express Aries or to express Scorpio. So Mars is not passive aggressive. Mars is bold. Mars is direct. Mars is calculating. But in the energy of Libra, Mars likes to harmonize, doesn't like to cause problems, likes to be the maybe justice seeker or also people pleasing. So whenever they do become frustrated, when like they kind of top their cup, they then become a little bit passive aggressive. Now, that doesn't mean that Mars in Libra is not going to show good qualities, because actually these people are real good at freedom fighting. They seek justice and they fight for justice. They have a lot of good qualities. I'm not an astrologer that believes that if you have planets in detriment or in fall, that area of life is doomed. Actually, it's a big focus for us because we're here to master the energy. Most likely we, in other past lives, we took advantage of that energy and we're here to master it this time around and do it the right way. So then we're given a little bit more challenges around that energy, so then we can correct it and really be cognizant of the actions that we take towards that area of life. I have debilitated planets in mine, and I also have some exalted placements and rulership placements. So I totally understand that energy, and I really do feel that I have blessings through the debilitation of my planet. However, it hasn't been easy. It's been something that I had to consciously be aware of, because subconsciously I was stuck in certain patterns. So that's where I think the catch-22 is. The more that we're evolved and we're able to catch those things and work on them, the better it is for us. So it's good to know these things, but don't feel bad if you happen to be a person that has Mars in the sign of Libra or Venus in the sign of Scorpio. That doesn't mean you're doom and gloom. All these planets, wherever they're at, no matter what, they have good expression and they have heavy expression too. So let's focus on changing. If we see we have patterns that are a little bit more heavier, like Venus in Scorpio, it's going to be a little bit more power driven, more passionate, and sometimes controlling, sometimes jealous, sometimes more interested in having sexual encounters versus building a relationship. And Venus loves to build relationships. So the downside of Venus in Scorpio is that Venus and Scorpio might not really care for the relationship building that way. Maybe they're just interested in connecting in a different way. And then once they find the one, they attach. And maybe they attach to the wrong one. And it causes fears and rejection and jealousy. But if you attach to the right person, if you find the person that just suits your energy and you suit theirs, this combination is quite loyal, quite passionate, very driven, and it'll be very powerful, especially with attracting money, and also a blessing for the partner because Scorpio rules joint money. And Venus, ruling one of the money houses, would bring in some money. So, not all bad things. However, when the planets are in mutual reception, they have a connection. So it's kind of like being connected to their kingdom while not necessarily being in their kingdom, and they help each other out. This is a Hellenistic practice, and I've seen it work quite well in people's charts. So when it comes to matters of money and taking action, we're going to see some things come up. Now, this moon is kind of letting us know that there's matters that are going to be coming into a culmination because full moons are about that, very quite transformative. And the energy of Capricorn, where Pluto is currently at, is restructuring. So, restructuring around money, huge amounts of money. Venus is not necessarily forming a sextile with Pluto, but eventually during her transit in Scorpio, she will form a sextile to Pluto. So this moon is highlighting what's kind of underneath the surface, and we haven't seen it yet. Going back to the sun and the moon, I also see that the sun is forming a separating opposition to Neptune, and the moon is forming a conjunction. So this is also quite healing. Now, the ruler of Pisces is Neptune and Jupiter. So Neptune being in its rulership and being very close to the full moon can actually bring a quite a soft and disconnecting and just dreamy energy. Neptune is very spiritual. Neptune is boundless, connected to water, and water is very intuitive, such like the moon is connected to the water. So very soft, intuitive energy that's being sent to us through the moon. These are emotions. So we're going to be very emotional, very sensitive. This is a day that we have to be very careful to take care of our energy, maybe do some meditation, some energy work, some affirmations, especially around releasing things that don't serve us anymore, that are attached to fears. Not necessarily just getting rid of things in the house. I mean, you do that too, because the energy of Virgo is to clean and organize, but it's more to really take things from the subconscious mind and just purge. That's the energy of Pluto. Purge them out, take them out. We don't need them anymore. And that's going to invite new transformation. Now, I am going to say this. This is one of the last full moons of the year that are easier. The rest of them, they're going to have a little bit of hiccups, But with that said, we're inviting transformation in. Pluto is quite involved. And we are going to have Venus retrograde in that degree that Pluto is at right now. So we're going to be revisiting this energy again. And I said this in the previous video that I made for the new moon in Virgo, because obviously Pluto doesn't move fast. It was still triggering the same degree. So just take note of the things that are happening now, especially if they're important things, because you might have to do a little bit of more work, or they might pay off and manifest bigger. So just take note. That's all I ask you to do. But from the opposition of the sun to Neptune, this is going to be not necessarily like an attack to vitality. Some people are going to feel this way. It's all depending on their chart. It is going to make us more tired. Neptune loves to sleep, loves to enter the mind and work with us in our sleep when we're in theta state. So we would need more rest because our vitality is going to be a little low during this time because of that, because Neptune is like taking in all this energy. Actually, in my psychic development class that I teach, a lot of the times when I'm working with my students, I tell them you need to drink lots of water, you need to get lots of rest today, because when we're connecting to energy and we're in a different energetic state to receive messages and to connect with our subconscious and our psychic abilities, we kind of run on different energies. So our body gets tired because we're in a different state of energy. Our aura is changing, so we can then connect to energy that we typically don't connect when we're fully grounded and we're doing day-to-day tasks, which is that Virgo energy, right? And we're completing the things that we have to do. So we do want to drink lots of water that day, get lots of sleep that day, do meditation, do affirmation. It's a day to rest, honestly. That doesn't mean you're not going to go to work. It doesn't mean you should stay home. Now, if you can take a day off and you can afford, then be my guest, do it, sleep in, relax. But if that's not the case, you don't necessarily have to do that. Just make sure that you take some time during that day to like really take some breaths and relax the mind and just kind of replenish all this like excess energy and emotions that we're having during this transit. But it's not necessarily that it's bad, it's just going to be very tiring. That's literally what it is. Another aspect that's almost perfecting, and this is applying, is Mars in the sign of Libra at 3 degrees, trining Saturn at 7 Aquarius. So Mars is taking action towards some karmic developments. Saturn is another planet that rules karma, such as Pluto. In ancient astrology, Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune were not part of the picture. Everything stopped at Saturn, and Saturn was appointed karma. He's also the ruler of the earth. He inherited the earth in the Capricorn rulership, and also Aquarius, and that's the expansion and the evolution of the earth. Saturn absolutely loves the transit of Aquarius. Saturn is not always in dignity. There's only a few signs that Saturn loves to transit: Capricorn, Aquarius, Libra. There are other neutral placements, but most of the time, Saturn, because it takes so long to make a complete 360 through the constellations. So during the transit in Aquarius, which comes once every approximately 28 to 31 years, we are having advancements in that area of Aquarius where he enjoys the most, because he's able to implement new innovations and think outside of the box. So we have this connection of Mars, which is kind of pushing these innovations out. It is in the energy of Libra because Mars is in Libra. So it's going to be impacting the legal system, contracts, also partnerships and collaborations, and a lot of things with contracts is like laws are signed into a contract, right? They're being signed by the judicial process in place, which is through courts, through Senate, through the president, etc. So we're going to see some developments on that. We're already kind of seeing the movement as soon as that Mars and Libra transit started. And we're also going to see big themes around money. There's a few things that show in this chart that money is going to be the highlight of this lunation. And the reason being is because we have Venus in the sign of Scorpio, which is actually forming a separating square to Saturn, in addition to Venus also forming a applying opposition to Uranus. So a few days after this full moon, Venus is going to be opposing Uranus. So we are looking at money in large amounts because Venus is also forming a sextile to Pluto. So that's large amounts of money. And this opposition to Uranus is going to be quite shocking. So there's going to be some things happening around money and power and the government because Saturn rules that. Agencies, things like that coming in play. Mixed aspects. That's all I can say. Another thing I noticed is that Jupiter and Mercury are forming a trine, and this is an air trine. Air is actually very dominant in this chart, which is a good thing. However, the full moon is a earth and water axis, so it's not necessarily communicating harmoniously with the moon and the sun, because the air trine is not aspected through a sextile or a trine via water or earth. So I like the fact that there is an air trine because it talks about community, communication, collaboration, right? All the air houses rule people. They rule how we speak to each other, how we talk with each other. These are the Kama houses, but then we have the moon in a moksha house, and we have the sun in an artha house, and they're not necessarily communicating with each other. So the karmic evolution is a little disconnected, but this is why we need that rest. We need to tap into our intuition and see what messages we get, follow our intuition. Maybe it's a day of just kind of planning and strategizing versus taking action because of that Mars energy. Mars is not in a sign where he should be taking action right away. So as a collective, we shouldn't be responding and be reactive. Like, that's the energy of Mars, to like react and try to solve problems. But when Mars is debilitated, it's better for us to kind of step back, analyze, really see things. One more thing that I forgot to mention, and it's really, really big, because Mercury is actually going to be going retrograde shortly after the Pisces full moon. So if you want to hear about Mercury retrograde, go ahead and check this video out, because I'm going to give you all the info on Mercury retrograde there. But just to give you like a little intro on what's happening here, Mercury is in the shadow period. So Mercury entered shadow, which means that Mercury is going to end up passing through these certain degrees 3 times. So it starts at 10 degrees this time around, all the way to the 25th degree, then it stops and stations, and it goes back all the way to 10, stops at 10 again, and then goes forward all the way to the 25th degree, and then it clears. So when we say that Mercury's in shadow, that means that it's doing its first round. When it goes retro, that's the beginning of the second round, and then it goes all the way back. When it stops retro, that's the end of the second, but the beginning of the third time through those degrees. Then it goes forward. It hits that same degree where it stopped to go retro. It passes it and it clears shadow. So with that said, all those degrees, we're redoing things in that area of life, and it's going to be the Libra energy. And Mercury is trining Jupiter. So in regard to our outlook, it's quite well. We're going to feel more optimistic. We're going to have plans of travel and talking and networking and, shaping our belief systems and connecting with people, but more on a most likely social media fashion, because Jupiter is in Aquarius, and Jupiter is also going to be retrograding. So Mercury and Jupiter are both going to be retrograding, and Mercury and Jupiter rule the south node and the north node. And this chart has no fire whatsoever. There's no planets in fire. The only point in fire is Sagittarius south node, and that is karma. So, what is happening with this full moon? It's telling us we need to work on releasing and releasing a lot of stuff. So, this is why I'm saying if you feel like taking that day off, or maybe in the afternoon, taking some time to meditate and just release and journal and maybe do some EFT tapping, some meditation, some affirmations, a ritual, anything like that to get a lot of things out, this is the time to do it. And I'm actually not feeling like I need to take a lot of action or be out there and doing things. I really do feel the internalized energy to do things, but more for me, more for myself, work on myself, really release things for myself, strengthen my meditation practice, change my habits, things like that. So, great full moon for that. If you have any planets between 18 degrees of the mutable signs, so that's Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius, through 8 degrees of the cardinal signs, which is the energy of Libra, Capricorn, Aries, and Cancer, then you're going to feel this the most. This specific area of life is where we have the modality of mutability, change into cardinal energy, which is the action takers. So we're having the energy of alchemizing, because the mutable signs like to magically transform and introduce a new season. And the cardinal energy comes in and does that introduction, right? But the mutable energy is what prepares the cardinal energy to enter in. And that's when we are kind of, with the mutable energy, it's grabbing a little bit of the fixed energy, grabbing a little bit of the cardinal energy, and just kind of mixing it all together. How does that make sense? So let's think about the month here in the northern hemisphere, the month of September. So we'll have days that it's super, super hot, and that's the middle of the summer. And then we'll have some days that is not that hot, and we have this cool breeze, and that's pulling in the cardinal energy of Libra. So the mutable signs like change, and they are quite unpredictable too, because they combine both and they change things up, and they don't follow the rules like the fixed energy. They alchemize, they change things. So right now we need to change things around and invite that cardinal energy, which is energy of new beginnings, new things, new season, and really release so we can invite more gifts. So now let's take a look at what's happening in human design. I do not talk about the types here. We're just talking about the gates that are being activated with the lunation. And this time around, it's 2 gates, because we have the sun in the sign of Virgo, and we also have the moon in the sign of Pisces. So these are 2 gates, are opposite to each other. And the sun is currently in gate 6, which is the gate of impact. This is the gate that has the natural ability and talent to master emotional energy and learn to trust that you have great impact to show up in the world and do and provide service. So it's about what we do to be of service to others. This gate likes to emphasize that when we center our life around service, we then find that there's a lot of gifts and pleasures, and also attract a lot of abundance that way, because we're meant to provide service. So anyone that has their sun, moon, or rising between 2237 of Virgo to 2815 of Virgo have signed up to carry a high frequency of energy So they're able to transmute this and then be able to be of service to others. So one of the things that I ask you and I invite you to do right now, because even if you don't have this activated, it's activated through this full moon, is to think of how is it that you're serving so you can find abundance. And this could be serving yourself, serving your family, serving your work. And taking note of this is really going to help you with getting the big picture. One of the affirmations that's connected to this energy is, I acknowledge that my emotional energy influences the world around me. I am rooted and I sustain peace all around me and those that I serve. On the opposite end, we have the moon at 36 degrees, which is the gate of exploration. And this gate is also activating that 22 degree through 28, 14-minute degree, 15-minute degree axis. And this gate talks about evolving by not falling into old patterns that do not allow us to explore new horizons. Taking a safe seat in old behaviors will not help us here. And that's one of the fallbacks of this energy, which is we stay in this place where we're not able to change our old habits. Doesn't that sound like karma? Quite karmic. But the goal here is to shatter any attachment to old patterns, especially things around old behaviors that keep us going into those karmic patterns, and to let go of these things so then we can invite new beginnings into our life. If we're able to do this, this is not just going to bring abundance. It's going to bring such abundance that it seems like a miracle. It seems like something that was a dream come true. And that is so the energy of Pisces. And here at the last degrees of Pisces, where it's alchemizing to this cardinal energy of Aries to take charge and initiative, it's so suiting. And the affirmation for this gate would be, when I am in energetic alignment, I impact humanity, create miracles, and fully align to my divine self. I would like to thank you for being here and always supporting me. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, check out these other videos that I have here. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys for the next lunation. Take care, lots of abundance, and get plenty of rest and drink lots of water.